Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Creating and Maintaining PD Systems, which is our webinar for today. I just wanted to let everybody know that you will all receive a certificate of participation, and that will be sent to you tomorrow over email. If you have any questions or any concerns, you can always email at coordinator@coabe.org, and we'll be sure to send you a copy if you need one. Okay, also, all of the resources that are discussed during this webinar will be uploaded to our Adult Educator Resource Repository, and you see the link there. I'm also going to post that in the chat box as well. But everything that is discussed today, including the PowerPoint, will be located there, so you can always go back and look at that at another time as well. Additionally, we just wanted to make sure that you are aware of some upcoming events. We've already had 13 states sign on for our virtual conference, which is October 26th and 27th, as well as our national conference, which is coming up March 25th through the 28th in 2018. So 13 states have signed on, so their entire state can participate in the virtual conference, and then we've also had a number of registrations as well on an individual level, but that registration has opened and is live. You can go to our website at coabe.org for more details. Also, we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of our ongoing public awareness campaign. You can see the website there, educateandelevate.org. And we've been having some ongoing webinars. This Friday, we have a webinar for state association presidents and state directors, which is taking place on, again, Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We also just wanted to note that we do have a journal with research to practice, and we're very excited to share that we've been pulling out articles of interest. So what we do is we try to pair an article from the journal to a webinar, and then also pair that with a resource from our Adult Educators Repository. Now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our wonderful presenters. We have Sharon, Johnston, and Looney from Kentucky Adult Education Skills U. So I will now turn this over to Sharon, Johnston, and Looney.
All righty, are you able to see us, Sharon? No. I apologize, Sharon. Are you able to see our PowerPoint now?
Yes, ma'am, I can see your screen. Okay. It looks great.
Great. Little panic moment for a second there. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hello from the Bluegrass State. As Sharon said, I'm Sharon Johnston. I'm the Director of College and Career Prep with Kentucky Adult Education Skills U, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Looney, Senior Associate with the College and Career Prep team. As all states are, Kentucky is working to make the necessary adjustments to meet the mandates of WIOA, and today we'll be sharing how professional development is designed to support local programs with this transition. Quite some time ago, to envision how to operationalize the focus on preparing students for the transition to college or career, we developed this graphic to illustrate how the moving parts of professional development and instructional support work together. Kentucky was the first state to adopt the College and Career Readiness Standards and implemented an intensive 3-year Standards in Action plan to equip all teachers to deliver instruction that is relevant to adults and provides the rigor needed for success on the GED and for the next step to post-secondary education or training. Across the country, in all industries, at all levels of job advancement, and all ages, you can hear the rally cry of employers frustrated by a lack of work ethic and soft skills in job applicants and current employees. This issue is not unique to adult ed. It has risen to a place of high importance in high schools and colleges as well. What is somewhat unique, though, for adult ed is that a large percentage of students have very limited work experience or perhaps no work experience at all. Because many also did not complete high school, they did not benefit from programs designed to teach the skills needed for workplace success. Many also come from home backgrounds where they may or may not have had a role model who consistently held a job or advanced in the workplace. Adult ed offers the best environment in which to learn, practice, and develop confidence in demonstrating these skills in a risk-free, supportive setting. Our classrooms are the perfect place to have open discussions about what workplace success looks like within the context of the academic instruction that is already taking place. For example, students can observe and enhance their conflict resolution skills, or perhaps conduct research to participate in a classroom debate on a current events topic. These experiences create opportunities to repeatedly stretch those soft skill muscles, while at the same time addressing the skills and content necessary to pass a high school equivalency assessment or make a level gain. In addition to the CCRS, Kentucky developed a set of standards to address the skills needed to get a job and possibly more importantly, to keep that job. Commonly referred to as soft skills, we opted for the broader nomenclature of essential skills to represent the behaviors and attitudes needed for workplace success at all levels and across all industries. To guide instructors in integrating those skills in academic instruction, we introduced our KYAE Skills U employability standards, each which encompasses a variety of skills. The standards are derived from listening to employers and adult education instructors and referencing national leaders in workplace preparation, including comprehensive adult student assessment systems or CASAS competencies and Equip for the Future, among others. Extensive research and vetting contributed to this concise and concrete list of skills. The standards are written as standalone statements describing skills the employable adult should possess in order to be successful in the workplace. To guide instructors in integrating those skills with their academic instruction, we also introduced our implementation guide. And so for each of the 10 employability standards, we provide multiple examples with live links of ways that students can demonstrate the standard on the left side of the left column, and instructional activities the instructor can use in the classroom. With this foundation, we were ready to move on to building capacity for high quality, standards-based lesson plan development. We provided extensive PD and launched several pilots over the years to identify the most effective approach for instructors to use to concurrently deliver academic instruction within the context of the workplace. From these efforts, we developed our lesson bank so that instructors across the state could share examples of classroom instructional strategies to infuse workplace readiness with academic preparation. And we are very excited and proud that our lesson bank was recently added to the LINKS repository of resources. And Lori is going to share a brief excerpt of what some of the reviewers had to say.
These lessons are written by and for adult educators who understand the motivation of adult learners to persist, and they keep the focus on objectives designed to help learners pass high school equivalency assessments and move successfully into the workplace or post-secondary educational environments. The website is easy to navigate and users can access lessons quickly. All lessons are open educational resources and are thus downloadable and usable for free, a real aid in reducing a teacher's planning time. In fact, these lessons include all materials needed for a lesson. All is laid out logically with well-considered introductory sections, instructional delivery, guided practice, etc. Educators can easily modify these lessons to extend them for several days or shorten them to hone in on one particular aspect of a lesson where they may be using it to reteach or reinforce a concept versus introducing it for the first time.
So our lesson bank is an online repository of lessons, all created by KYAE instructors. It is free to anyone across the country, and all lessons have been rigorously vetted with subject matter and content matter experts. On our website, you will find the scoring rubric and the process for that instructors go through to submit, have their lesson vetted, possibly make revisions before it's posted. If you will allow me just a minute to switch screens, I'd really like to take you directly to our website and the lesson bank. And first you would go to kyae.ky.gov. This is our homepage, and you would click on educators, and that would bring you to this list of resources for educators, which includes our employability standards and other professional development information that you may want to go back and revisit. You can get to the lesson bank one of two ways, either by clicking here or under resources. So if I just click on lesson bank, you can see that you can search for lessons by content area or by employability. You can also search for lessons by NRS level, by a specific CCR citation, by an employability standard, a career cluster, or simply by entering a search term into the bar. If you have not yet visited our lesson bank, I highly encourage you to do that, to create an account and go in and explore. For now, I'd like to show you specifically under employability, since that is a primary focus of our call today, what you will find when you click on the employability section. These tiles contain lessons and units, and you can see from their titles, one is on career exploration, one is aligned with soft skills, and then if you scroll down, you will see the 16 national career clusters. The ones in tan are those areas of highest need and projected growth in Kentucky. So for those, we have prioritized filling those tiles with high quality lessons and units. For your state, it would look different. Your high sectors may be different. But for any program across the state, actually across the nation, if you click on particularly one of the tan ones, you will find extensive lessons and units and resources so that you can help a student who may walk in your program one day and say they have an interest in architecture and construction. And you will see you will be taken to units if you prefer units, or individual lessons. When you click on a lesson, this first one being math skills for carpet and tile installation. Just give us a second. Well, when you explore, you can see it for yourself. There may be a lot of folks on there right now. When you click on it, you'll get a thumbnail sketch, and then you will also get the option to download it. There we go. This is the thumbnail sketch. And then on the right, you will see you can download it as a PDF or as a Word document, so that if you want to make adaptations for your particular group of students, you have the freedom to do that. And also, once you create an account and a profile, you have the ability to save lessons to your favorites. So if it's something you want to return to repeatedly, it will be there when you log back into your favorites. Let me switch back to the PowerPoint. Get that off of the screen. To further validate that students could demonstrate the skills needed for workplace success, we jointly purchased access to the Worldwide Interactive Network, or WIN, suite of college and career readiness products, which includes soft skills courseware and assessments. Introducing this opportunity provided an avenue for our students to compete for jobs in their local communities and earn the first of a series of stackable credentials. This purchase was made in partnership with the Kentucky Department of Workforce Development and makes WIN available to any state agency outside of the K-12 system that wishes to provide their customers with a state-recognized certificate. Participants who complete the courseware and assessments earn a Kentucky Essential Skills Certificate, which is endorsed by Governor Matt Bevin. Armed with these certificates, our students are better equipped for the next step towards financial stability through obtaining and retaining jobs with family-sustaining wages. This may be through a career pathway or through entry into a post-secondary education institution. One model available to students is Accelerating Opportunity Kentucky, a partnership of Kentucky Adult Ed, Kentucky Community and Technical College System, and the Kentucky Workforce Investment Board, which allows students to concurrently participate in GED preparation courses and college-level classes to shorten the time spent gaining the skills or credentials to transition to sustainable employment. Students have other options as well, which are made available from partnerships developed by adult education programs in their local communities. And in addition, Kentucky Adult Education Skills U supports the development of these partnerships to guide students to transition into one of Kentucky's high-demand sectors. Lori will be sharing an example of just such an effort involving the architecture and trade sector. This has been a brief overview of what is in place in Kentucky for WIOA implementation, and now we would like to share our vision and work for ensuring that PD equips our providers to fully implement not only the letter, but the spirit of the legislation in order to ready our students for the transition to the next step on their career journey. Under the direction of Joyce Bullock, Senior Fellow for KYAE Skills U, the goal has been to continually evaluate the effectiveness of the PD opportunities we provide, and we accomplish this in a variety of ways. Currently, we assess Level 1, which is participant reaction, Level 2, participant learning, and Level 3, organizational impact of the Guskey model. With the 17-18 fiscal year, our goal is to delve more deeply and ascertain the transfer of learning of PD content to the classroom and the impact it has on student outcome. In order to ensure that PD offerings are responsive to the needs of the more than 700 instructors and 65 directors statewide, we take multiple steps to gather feedback. Even prior to WIOA, Kentucky Adult Ed Skills U began the process of reevaluating the professional growth needs of local program instructors and directors statewide. Extensive research has led to a re-envisioning of the professional development model. Gathering input from the field and PD developers was a process already in place. And then in fiscal year 17-18, we also began aligning PD with WIOA performance metrics and criteria from our classroom observation tool to ensure that PD offerings met both individual and programmatic needs to increase student outcomes. Next, you will be introduced to the steps taken, the tools developed, and the strategies KYAE Skills U has in place to add transparency in measuring return on investment of the PD allocation, including brand new tools for gauging transfer of learning to the classroom at both 3 and 6 month intervals following the PD. And this data will be used to capture real-time feedback that we will use to inform PD planning already in place for fiscal year 18-19. Every year, a link is sent to a PD survey to the entire field. This year, the survey included 32 questions, ranging from demographic type information, such as what is the preferred day of week, or your preferred method of PD delivery, and then extensive open-ended questions to determine the degree of effectiveness of PD, such as the two you see on the left side of your slide. We also conduct a variety of focus groups that may include instructors or directors or PD providers throughout the year. Lori will now provide greater detail as to our work in consulting with all PD stakeholders.
In a snapshot of the latest PD survey, you'll see the question posed asks respondents to report on whether student engagement and persistence improved as a result of having taken PD. While most report positive feedback about professional development in Kentucky, only 1 of 15 reports actual change in student outcomes as a result of professional development. If you take a look at this screenshot, you'll see this is a particular question taken from the survey, and out of those 15 responses, the one with the star beside of it at the bottom, question 15 reads, PD has reinforced the importance of ensuring students are equipped with a growth mindset. I have shared information from professional development about the importance of developing a relationship with students during the orientation and intake process. Retention has improved with students. In addition to seeking feedback from those who participate in PD, we're also seeking input from PD providers. Kentucky is fortunate to have some of the region's and nation's top providers of professional development for instructors, which include the National Center for Families Learning in Louisville, the Collaborative Center for Literacy Development with the University of Kentucky in Lexington, the Adult Education Academy housed at Morehead State University, and Kentucky Educational Television, that's Kentucky State PBS station with offices in Lexington, Kentucky. In planning for the current fiscal year, a new PD matrix was developed to align professional development first with our performance metrics. So as we selected PD offerings for the current fiscal year, we were able to determine areas of unmet need as well as areas that had already been sufficiently addressed by crosswalking anticipated offerings with WIOA measurable skill gains. You see those in this particular slide in purple. The KYAE Skills U Classroom Observation Tool was developed in 2015-16. It's an amalgamation of resources we received through participation in the CCRSIA initiative and accessed from the OCTAE Adult Education Teacher Competencies. The tool was designed to allow observers to measure the effectiveness of classroom instruction through the eyes of a student by targeting 5 distinct categories. Those categories include standards alignment, student engagement, monitoring learning and adapting instruction accordingly, higher order thinking skills, and contextualization for workforce success. 2 additional content categories were created for determining the effectiveness of RLA and mathematics instruction. The observation tool has been used for 2 consecutive years now. Each year, observation data was aggregated from all 120 counties in the state, and trends were identified. We included additional crosswalks in the PD matrix to allow for PD alignment to each category and indicator of the newly developed observation tool. Just to give you an illustration of the analysis of classroom observation data, this slide shows the results of last year's observation cycle. You can see the lowest incidences of observation in the purple column, or observation tool category E. This category addresses contextualization to equip students with skills and dispositions needed for workforce success. The growth opportunity for 2017-18 professional development is even more apparent here. This slide shows analysis of the least observed indicators. Category E is by far the greatest area of need, so we knew going into 17-18 that intensive PD efforts were needed to support growth in this critical area of instruction. The cumulative effect of developing a matrix to crosswalk not only MSGs, but also all elements of the observation tool was a total restructuring of this year's Professional Development Handbook. The new version provides instructors and directors with more comprehensive information with which to determine the professional development opportunities to best meet their individual and program level needs. This year's handbook includes visual alignment tools to allow program directors greater ease of use in intentionally guiding their staff's PD focus to address growth opportunities identified in the last cycle of classroom observation. And I'd just like to quickly add that the redesign of the handbook was truly a team effort. KYAE staffers such as Joyce Bullock, Tony Quire, Missy Brownson, among many others, were instrumental in giving the handbook a new look and feel this year. As you can see, there are requirements for professional development by employment category. For example, if you look at the graphic on your left, you see the professional development requirements for new instructors. For new ABE instructors, 2 online professional development events are required. We are absolutely thrilled that this year the GED course has been redesigned by Kentucky's own GED State Administrator Ray Smith to address the specific needs of Kentucky students and educators, and provides guidance for navigating all of the GED testing service resources. You'll see that new instructors in ELA are still required to take an orientation to adult education, but their implementation training for the CASAS is different as opposed to an ABE instructor. In terms of experienced instructors, if you look at the graphic on the far right, you see that PD requirements are outlined by level of employment. So if I am a part-time instructor working 200 to 499 hours, I only take one online, either online or blended, 12-hour professional development course. If I'm more fully employed at 500 to 999 hours, I'll take 2 courses. And if I'm the equivalent of full-time with 1,000 hours plus, I'm required to take 3 12-hour courses, one of which must be blended. Feedback on the most recent PD survey prompted this requirement for one blended PD offering at all instructor levels. Respondents to the survey reported a desire for the opportunity to interact with colleagues in similar roles in various locations in the state. So we thought professional development could certainly facilitate this request. So to meet the networking need, time for focused peer-to-peer interaction will be budgeted into every PD offering this year.
And I just wanted to add as well, if I could, Lori, that even though these are our requirements, there are several instructors across the state who go above and beyond. We have some who want to take every PD they can get their hands on, and there's no limit in Kentucky. So all of this is at no cost to the local level, except for travel to a blended course. Other than that, everything is paid for by our agency and available for all instructors to take as much PD as they deem necessary or they have interest in.
Thank you. And then the final category of professional development requirement by position is the requirement for a director. Director professional development responsibilities align with the level of their position. So therefore, they have the most rigorous set of expectations. All program directors are required to take a 3-day blended professional development institute that accumulates to 27.5 total contact hours. However, new directors are required to take that same institute plus the 2 basic introductory courses to equip them in their new role. Just to give you an illustration, this is an overview of the institute description and learning goals from the Program Director Institute that we organized for 2016-2017. The focus of the Institute was determined by the data from the inaugural year of the observation tool. That year's results showed a need for growth in higher order thinking skills. So the goals of the 2016-17 Program Director Institute reflect intentional focus on that particular growth opportunity. This year, the focus is on Category E, contextualization and workforce success, because like we discussed a few moments ago, It was an obvious growth opportunity from the latest observation round. This slide shows an actual project that served as a basis of a Professional Development Institute session. We partnered with an energy sector employer with statewide reach to guide our development of contextualized curriculum. We used the resources designed in the context of this project as templates for director use in their local initiatives. The first template you see here shows how we narrowed a wide range of potential curricula before we asked for the employer's input. We cross-swapped the new NRS educational functional level descriptors with Kentucky occupational skills standards for the sector, and then again with the sector's NCCER, or National Center for Construction Education and Research, curriculum content standards. Then we only presented to the employer partner the content that had full alignment, which in our terminology meant a skill match between all three. So that's the NRS, EFLs, the COSA skill standards, and the NCCER curriculum standards, or had partial alignment, meaning a skill match for 2 out of the 3. The employer was such a willing partner that they agreed to ask all of their managers across the state of Kentucky in 17 co-ops to complete a SurveyMonkey-based ranking of identified skills. The results of the survey guided the design of a 40-hour, 17-lesson set of fully contextualized lesson plans to that particular sector. All of these lessons, by the way, are available free of charge as an open educational resource on the KYAE Skills U Lesson Bank. And you'll recall they're housed under the Architecture and Trades tile that Sharon shared with you just a few moments ago during your tour of the lesson bank. In addition to the CCR standards, we wanted hiring officers to rank essential skills. This slide shows how the co-op managers ranked each of KYAE's employability skills. What's interesting to me is that the top 5 had to do with collaborating and communicating effectively with fellow coworkers. Even more interesting, when managers were given an open-ended question, allowing them to identify priority skills that had not already been identified in the survey, the skills they reported needing the most in potential hires were essential skills instead of hard skills. This slide is a screenshot of a sampling of 8 open-ended manager responses. Of the 8, you'll see that 6 of the responses from managers reference skills that are addressed in our KYAE Skills U employability standards.
As you can see, we feel as if we're doing a good job of addressing levels 1 through 3 of Guskey's model. Our charge now is to elevate our processes to create greater transparency in determining transfer of learning and application in the classroom. As you recall, in the PD survey open-ended question we shared with you earlier, now on the right side of your screen, only 1 out of these particular 15 respondents reported in detailed terms full implementation of what they had learned in a PD offering targeted for student engagement and persistence. We have come a long way, but we recognize that this is an ever-changing fluid process and that we need to remain responsive to the changing landscape of adult education and our focus on preparing students for the workplace. This is a screenshot of our draft Guskey-based evaluation of PD implementation. We're still putting the finishing touches on this instrument, which was developed by KYAE Skills U Administrative Leadership Senior Associate Natasha Murray, with research conducted by Dawn Hansel, one of our PD contractors from the University of Kentucky's Collaborative Center for Literacy Development. You'll see there's intentional measurement of implementation in the questions posed at both 3 months and 6 months after a PD event occurs. You'll also see the matrix at the bottom of the form as we begin to measure linkages between PD and student outcomes, Guskey's level 5.
We hope that what we have shared today is of value to you in your work. Just as a reminder, the majority of the resources we shared today are available on our website. That site again is kyae.ky.gov. You can find the majority of the resources shared here by clicking on the Educators tab. Or if you have follow-up questions or ideas to share with us, we welcome your feedback and collaboration. So please feel free to contact either Sharon or myself.
You can see our contact information is on this last slide, and I do see in the Q&A box just one question asking for my contact information. So there it is, and I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So I think at this point, we need to turn this back over to Sharon Bonney, and she will give us closing remarks and instructions as to follow up to our webinar. And again, as Lori said, we very much, oh, she meant Sharon Bonney. We very much welcome your feedback and thoughts and questions at any time. We are here to serve not only Kentucky, but our colleagues across the nation. And thank you very much for your time. And I see one more question. Are other states using the lesson bank? Yes, ma'am. When you register, we do ask what state you're with. That's all we ask, so that we can sort of track usage. At this time, other states cannot submit to the lesson bank simply because the rigorous vetting process is a little costly, and we have budgeted to be able to do that for Kentucky. It's a possibility that there may be an avenue to do that nationally in the future, but for right now, submissions are limited to Kentucky, but any state can go in and explore and pull down lessons and customize them to their particular program and their particular student population that they serve. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us, and I will turn it back over to Sharon.
Great. Thank you, ladies, so much. That was extremely helpful, and I have to say I'm very impressed with the work that you've been doing there in Kentucky. I did want to just see if there's anybody else who had any questions before we ended. It just might be that you guys did such a great job. There aren't really a lot of questions.
I see comments, but no more questions.
Okay. I know I'm looking here too. I'm just giving people one more opportunity here before we let them go.
Oh, I see one. Are other states allowed to participate in the PD sessions? At this point, those are again only open to Kentucky, but we will take that under advisement. That's a possibility, because I do think we have some very high quality PD, as we shared, with the access we have to some of the states and countries' best PD developers and deliverers. So that's something that we can certainly discuss in-house.
I see another question here regarding, will this be presented at the Regional Co-Ed Conference in October? And I can respond to that. The regional conference in October will be held in Ohio, and at this point, there is not, we are not having this presentation there, but there is a possibility that at the Co-Ed 2018 conference in Phoenix, Arizona, that we might be able to have our friends here from Kentucky share it there.
I believe we have a pre-conference, and a lot of this information will be included in that as well at the Co-Ed conference in October.
Great. And then we have a question here. How do the WIOA data requirements in general relate to PD outcomes?
That is something we are working to get a better handle on. That's a very good question. Outside of having an experimental group and a control group, it's very difficult to make that correlation. However, we are trying to at least link to some degree the PD an instructor participates in and the students who are served by that instructor, and see if there is some, maybe not a straight line, but a dotted line that correlates to maybe an improvement in math scores, or specific high impact indicator questions that students were missing, and after a PD, the students in that who are enrolled in that instructor's classes show an improvement in that over time, that we're looking for those trends.
Great.
I would add maybe just 2 additional comments to what Sharon said. One thing we're really being intentional about in Kentucky is working more closely with aligning our efforts to the administrative side of the house, charged with monitoring performance. Another thing that we're thinking about internally and sort of planning for the future is building a culture in Kentucky that values employment and that values going to college. And so we're looking forward to the future and anticipating building professional development for a variety of MSGs, including a few new ones.
Excellent. Well, ladies, we've had 23 questions, most of which were related to people just giving their thanks and expressing their gratitude for the webinar. So I too would like to express my gratitude. And I see there's one more question here.
I see the one from Lori.
Do you see it? Okay, yeah, I'll let you respond to that.
I'm glad you asked that question, Lori. And for anyone who wants to see the wide array of PD offerings, again, if you just go to kyae.ky.gov and click on educators, and then slide down that middle list of links to professional development, it will take you to our handbook, and you can see all of the PD offerings. And yes, we do have offerings that are specific to serving the ESL population. This year we also have, for the first time, an offering geared towards folks who serve in corrections, and an offering to better equip our instructors to serve students with disabilities, and not just learning differences or learning disabilities, but all disabilities, and what is the politically correct way of identifying that, and what is the best way to make a referral to other services. That PD will actually be conducted by one of our partners at the Office of Voc Rehab.
I see another question on here. What is an MSG? An MSG is a measurable skill gain. And then I see one, is it possible to get a copy of the observation tool? If you go to our website and go educators, and then you go standards-based instruction resources, and scroll down that page, you will find an entire set of resources to support the use of the observation tool, as well as the observation tool itself. That's posted on the website.
And ladies, that website is in the PowerPoint, is that correct?
The link to the kyae.ky.gov.
The website that you're referencing, yeah, or I can type it right here in the chat box too for folks, if that would be helpful.
Right. It's really easy. It's just kyae.ky.gov, and then click on educators, and it will take you to all of those resources.
Okay, great.
I do see one more question, Sharon, from Renee about how often do we observe instructors? So in year 1 and year 2, directors were asked to observe every instructor who worked 1,000 hours or more. This year for Kentucky, we have an extension for WIOA implementation, and so this is our RFP year. And to acknowledge that our folks would be very, very engaged in that process once the RFP is released. All we asked of them this year was to observe anyone who was new, but next year we will revert back to observing every instructor in your program, because there's really no other way for directors or for us at the state to see where the gaps are, where the areas for growth are, and what trends are rising that we can address through PD. Yes, Renee, it's once per year at this point, but that's up for discussion as well. As far as the hours, because we have a multitude of fiscal agents, our programs are funded through community colleges, through school boards, through universities, and through community-based organizations. So each of them has their own definition of full-time, and that was why we had to put an hour parameter rather than just saying full-time versus part-time, so that it would be applicable to every program regardless of their fiscal agent's definition.
I'd just like to thank the person who made the post that he had been visiting our website and using our resources for over 5 years with great success. We appreciate hearing that. It's always good to hear positive feedback about the work you're doing, and to hear it from someone who's been accessing the website for that long is especially encouraging. Thank you.
And would very much appreciate, John, if you were so inclined to send us an email and tell us some of the highlights and how you've used them, and maybe even your thoughts on how we could make more improvements. Thank you, Vicki. Yes, we're really wanting not only for us as an agency to see and acknowledge that, but we want the field to see and acknowledge how the work they're doing in the classroom is very much tied to those WIOA measures and ultimately outcomes for students.
Can I comment on Vicki's question as well?
Uh-huh.
When you access the curriculum that's been posted for architecture and trades and healthcare in particular on the lesson bank, since you say your state's focus is making NRS level gains this year, you might be interested to know that those two sets of curricula in particular were targeted to students at NRS level 4, and it's an entire 40-hour set of curricula. So the goal would be to use that curriculum to help the student make the level gain with intentional focus on those two sector skills as well. So you might find that particularly useful since that's your state focus this year.
Oh, and someone asked if there's a benefit of using our site through links, our lesson bank. I don't believe there's a benefit one way or the other. It's just two different pathways in.
Okay, just addressing Vicki Jones' question. She's asking us to repeat the areas that focus on NRS level 4. So those two most recent curriculum development efforts are under the two tiles in the employability section of Lessons in the Bank. So the first section is the curriculum contained in the architecture and construction tile. The second set is housed in healthcare. And you'll find when you open the lesson plans and you look at them, they're numbered. So you can see the sequence, 1 of 10, 2 of 10. So you can use them in sequence or customize them. But the intent of that entire set of curriculum was to be a complete 40-hour cycle to move students to a level gain. So to answer your question, architecture and trades and healthcare once you get in the lesson bank.
One final parting observation about our lesson bank is I sometimes describe as you can order a steak or a hamburger. So we know for most folks out in the field, including myself, my lesson plans were more hamburger-like. The lesson plans in the bank are steak-like, and that was an intentional decision we made because we wanted them to not only be a place to get a lesson, but to learn about developing lessons to the level of rigor and with the shifts that are recommended and promoted by Octay to get to that deeper level of understanding. So when you open one, you may at first say, wow, this is a lot of information, and it may be more information than you need. And that's why there's a Word version. So that's soup to nuts in that lesson plan, and then you can take it and customize it. But if you are a brand new instructor and you need a little assistance in understanding the shifts and understanding the key advances, this resource will help you with that.
Excellent. Again, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for making time for this important webinar and for being so willing to share with us how you were able to develop this wonderful system, professional development system there in Kentucky. I did want to also mention that the Kentucky Adult, that your program, the Kentucky Association or Agency, I'm sorry, is going to be also heading up our state strand. So we're going to be having a state strand at the COABE conference in 2018, and these wonderful ladies, Sharon and Lori, will be helping us out with that. So if you have, for the folks that are still on this webinar, if you have, an exciting best practice or something at your state that you're doing that you feel would be useful and that others from other states could learn about, why the COABE conference would be a great place to showcase that. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. And with that, I just want to again say thank you everybody for your time, and this will be put out on the COABE website and archived there. And I see there's one last question, so we'll make time for that one last question, and then we'll end this. So,
Sure.
Sharon and Lori, would you guys like to answer that one last question?
Absolutely, good question, Lori. Many of our lessons do that, not all of them, because it's not always the focus. But if you go to the employability section, particularly under soft skills and career awareness, you will see several lessons that guide students to their local LMI information, and then they complete math processes, comparing one county to another or one state to another, or looking at projected growth into career areas of interest. So multiple ways that we pull that information in, and we think that's critical.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you everybody for your time, and please be sure to circle back with us for more webinars like this. We hope to see you all at the COABE conference in Phoenix, Arizona, March 25th through 28th. Thank you so much. Bye now.